Get your copy of Fire. It's definitely a must-read. If you enjoy hood books, this one is it. Just like the title of the book, it's officially Fire. Get it on Amazon, paperback or Kindle.
Let's go.
Peace. This is the enemy's public. I am Bro.Nasir. Peace. Salute to my brother Dangerous Music. Thanks for tapping in, family. This evening, I want to go over a few things. The child labor that is used in China to work in the cobalt mines and to produce the chocolate for M&M Mars. So when we eat M&Ms or we eat Mars bars or anything that's made by that company, when we're enjoying our Tesla or whatever electric car that we're driving, that labor is child labor as young as 2 and 4 years old. When a child is old enough to walk, they are put to work in a cobalt mine, or they are out here picking cocoa leaves or anything, whatever they use to make chocolate for M&M Mars. Thanks for joining me this evening, my brother Brown's Flat Power God, my sister, the true daughter of darkness. Thanks for tapping in. I appreciate it. I want to go over that this evening. And I also want to talk about the anti-Zionism, anti-Semitism narrative and the Israel-Palestine protest that's going on here on the college campuses. You know, people are saying that it's a uptick of anti-Semitism on the campuses, and people are fear-mongering, saying that there's violence going on these college campuses during the protests. Yet I haven't seen any violence. There's cameras all over the place. There's media out there filming the protest, and from my understanding, they were arresting the victims of the violence by the counter protest of the support of Palestine. Those who were supporting Palestine was attacked by those who support Israel, and the victims were attacked. That's what I was told by a mainstream media, that they're attacking the victims. But before, I want to play some dangerous music. I want to play some Dre Cobbs, I'm going to play some, some of my nephew's music. And I'm going to play some Voodoo Child also. About 4 or 5 songs, so then I'm going to get into the subject matter. Let me share my screen and get down to this.
How in the fuck is you hustling with these grams, man? I know it's all cap. All on my face with the fake smile. Yeah, you can't get no dab. I got niggas that are shooters. All in your head like a nap. Up on the scene with them 2, 2, 3s and edit the job. No games, man. Yeah, I got no time for this shit. I be the one to blame, so please don't you make me click. Hit the block like a march, yeah. It's like a parade. Drunk sound and you ducking and hiding. Oh, better cover your face. Hip hop used
to my brother Marco Power. Thanks for joining me.
Funny driving fancy cars. Hoes used to be hoes, but now they stars. Man, I swear this shit done went way too far. 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 Niggas still killing niggas. Pay your partner to hit ya. Hoes still fucking with niggas. Never raising their children. Cluckers still paying deals. Trying to catch them a feeling. I know a bunch of people who ain't never gonna have it. Pants way up their leg. Crazy colors in their head. Mumbling rapping shit. Make the niggas say what it said. I know you think I'm tripping. This boy going fed. But I'm just telling you some of the things bouncing in my head. Hip hop used to be so hard. Now they dressing funny, driving fancy cars. Hoes used to be hoes, but now they stars. Man, I swear this shit done went way too far. 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 Man, y'all got an old nigga singing and sweating in the booth trying to get this shit heard. Way too far. What the bump your brakes, partner?
Now we're going to go to Is You Rolling? Yeah, this is Voodoo Child. Yes, it is.
It's a team. Allah, let's roll. They say I'm never coming back. It might be true, cause I ain't looking back. No, we elevated, now we on our way. Yeah. Now it's your rolling on, I gotta say, yeah. Gotta say, yeah. Now it's your rolling on, I gotta say, yeah. Now wish me love, I'm on the road. They say I'm changing, but I'm just chasing
the G'd up and I can't hide it. So let's roll in that shit, bitch, and I stand by it. I'm that new dope in the streets, nigga, no stamp on it. Team too real, can't beat us and you can't join us. Niggas know about folk, shows lined up and down my coast. Young black and I get it, loved by few, hated by most. Extraordinary lifestyle. Do it for those who can't afford to get it right now. Then them corners getting it right now, nigga. I was just in their shoes, wild and something to prove. Young and confused, it's like I had nothing to lose. Hungry for more. These Benjamins rise, start opening doors. My circle is tight, moves a unit. It's a company law. Now they say that I ain't coming back. What? Get a taste of that success and don't know how to act. Niggas want fame, we want more money, that's a big difference. This music coming in big shipments, big business. Hello.
They say I'm never coming back. It might be true, cause I ain't looking back. No. We elevated, now we on our way. Yeah. Now these you moments, all I gotta say. Gotta say, yeah. Now these you moments, all I gotta say, yeah. Now wish me love, I'm on the road. They say I'm changing, but I'm just chasing gold.
Shit, never look back, too motivated. Been through it all, blood, sweat, tears. Niggas talk that shit, don't know the latest. She said, fuck that, ignore the haters. Hollywood beef, gon' get the paper. Racks at night, don't try to save me. Phone sit back, keep concentrating. Let me cool down this conversation. Tomorrow come through, start violating. What you gonna do now when GM Smooth put job back in hibernation? Should we run out town? The hook machine, the one we call SP. Single on tracks, we got real line name. Picture the game if they dance, I mean. We got it on films, LR, Marley, Mike J. To the top, my nigga, I ain't worried about the downfall. It's just me and my team, we succeed without y'all. Doubt that, nigga, please. Let me see you throw your hands, nigga, pop off. That's what I thought, I ain't beat. Have a seat, what you think they made a couch for? Relax, nigga, don't worry about where my cash at. I'ma grind for mine, I'ma ride for mine. More than a couple years on my abstract. No beginner, nigga, I'm a winner, cold winner, be a mine. I'm money from the ass gap. This crack on wax, I'ma attach that. Bounce, hold the back, that nigga.
They say I'm never coming back. It might be true, cause I ain't looking back. No. We elevated, now we on our way. Yeah. Now these are moments, all I gotta say. Gotta say, yeah. Now these are moments, all I gotta say, yeah. Now wish me love, I'm on the road. They say I'm changing, but I'm just chasing gold. Chasing my goal. And now stop chasing my goals.
Now we're gonna go to Taha's the Genius. Trending money. Well, I'm sorry, streaming money. Gonna go to my nephew real quick. And his crew.
And that's on God. One day I put my feet up and rest, but I've been on my job. If Lewis Street to talk, then I'm next. Cause bitch, I do this till the Reaper come. Cause bitch, I'll do this till the Reaper come.
We on a different time. Mob ties, splitting odds. My guys are sitting high from mob ties with different tribes. FTL, the Wizard of Oz. I put that whip in drive. Jumped on that yellow brick road. Ain't got them shit supplied. I've been a thrive. Painting your inner eyes. These niggas penalized. She remembers how I painted her inner thighs and left it symbolized. Aura is different. Your story is fiction. Try to ignore my existence. That boy is all in your mentions. I bought a party at 10. They all grip. I can't bring no more sin. And we well respected, nigga. We ain't got bullshit. That boy dip. I got the course grip. Plus my torch lit. We been this way since we been jumping off the porches, huh? My biggest secret's just left with niggas in coffins, huh? My life unorthodox, nightmares I was forced to watch. Every flip thinking if I'm about to take this loss or not. And that was level ups, I need my paper off the top.
And that's on God. One day I put my feet up and rest, but I've been on my job. If Lewis Street to talk, then I'm next. Cause bitch, I do this till the Reaper come. Cause bitch, I'll do this till the Reaper come. And that's on God. One day I put my feet up and rest, but I've been on my job. If Lewis Street to talk, then I'm next. Cause bitch, I do this till the Reaper come. Cause bitch, I'll do this till the Reaper come.
All of my niggas rugged, shady niggas in the shade, they always up to something. Few bricks, vac sealed up in the Louis Duffage. Give them Luzon instructions, exchange the Mr. Function. I'm lit, can barely function. My nigga, these dust bunnies always reaching for my streaming money. Just when this nigga comes, might be intoxicated, could lose my occupation. But who be worried about muffins when all my niggas caking? Pull up and range and hummus, inside the color hummus. Been doing well for myself, my cup don't overrun it. I spit a couple balls, Gazelle a couple hundred. Young badass nigga who's always getting punished. To spend some time with addicts, just means you want some acid. Trip out in Wonderland, whatever happens, happens. Never satisfied, won't get the satisfaction. Be beasting in the game, cause I'm a beast in practice.
And that's on God. One day I put my feet up and rest, but I've been on my job. If Lewis Street can talk, then I'm next. Cause bitch, I do this till the Reaper come. Cause bitch, I'll do this till the Reaper come. And that's on God. One day I put my feet up and rest, but I've been on my job. If Lewis Street can talk, then I'm next. Cause bitch, I do this till the Reaper come. Cause bitch, I'll do this till the Reaper come.
Look, if I still got the key, then it ain't really being neat. Got the time, thank quarantine and vacancies on campus living. We'll be tripping if I ain't out trying to get mine. Lance blood on the door you need. No mask can save you, just another way to profit. I mean, used to be hype beast, now it's just mainstream. I took the mask off just for the sting grin. Heard it's contagious, it's the thrill of your last thoughts. Shoot the shooter, camera duels like I'm called sprouts. Watch how you maneuver, can't compute when you off grid, right? Grade high, plug feathers, wave, mind wave. Giving sight for the moment, midnight gospel for your atonement. Left to the side door swaying, a hymn to carry you far beyond the yours. I'll soak you playing your part until the curtain call. Interrogation never mattered to the lockjaw. Spitting through the wire, we abide behind Marabi Code. Gift you with the choir, we just sad you couldn't hear the
And that's on
notes.
God. One day I put my feet up and rest, but I've been on my job. If Lewis Street can talk, then I'm next. Cause bitch, I do this till the Reaper come. Cause bitch, I'll do this till the Reaper come. And that's on God. One day I put my feet up and rest, but I've been on my job. If Lewis Street can talk, then I'm next. Cause bitch, I do this till the Reaper come. Cause bitch, I'll do this till the Reaper come.
Greetings, Tiara, Latrice. Peace. Thanks for tapping in. Now we're going to hear some Dre Cobb's Crabs in the Bucket. This song resonates.
The crabs in the bucket, we can't think nothing of it. Haters continue fronting, and the real ones they love it. Rustle like vomit, we especially above it. Vibe high like rockets, and we keep it 100. The crabs in the bucket, we can't think nothing of it. Haters continue fronting, and the real ones they love it. Rustle like vomit, we especially above it. Vibe high like rockets, and we keep it 100. They wanna deceive you, cause they just wanna be you. So they mad when they see you. Be a master achiever, all you need is to be you. Put the bullshit in review, I put the bullshit in review. All the bullshit I outgrew. Haters mad cause they not you, but God insists pursue you. Meditate like I'm Hindu, but this aboriginal. Really, I'm just original. Spirit man with a plan to withstand any man or empty with issues. I meditate with my pistol and my amethyst crystal. That's something that I commit to. Protect yourself from these fools. Spiritually, physically, close from the enemies. Rule one, always protect your energy. These niggas be on negative frequencies, man. Fuck it, let them be. They can't fuck with a G.O.D. Roll up something sticky. Keep it gangsta and hippie. Stay on hustle like Nipsey. Bro got all that in the G. The crabs in the bucket. We can't think nothing of it. Haters continue fronting. And the real ones they love it. Rustle like vomit. We especially above it. Vibe high like rockets. And we keep it 100. The crabs in the bucket. We can't think nothing of it. Haters continue fronting. And the real ones they love it. Rustle like vomit. We especially above it. Vibe high like rockets, and we keep it 100.
Yo, I'm Tony Jimmy Stewart, laughing y'all like it's NASCAR. My rhymes elegant like salmon with the caviar. My third eye, let me see who you are. Crabs in the barrel, they grab you when you reach too far. I shine bright cause I be with the stars. Get you these bars and maybe they can heal a few scars. Smoking asteroids and then I go and build with the God. Who knew my pen game was cuckoo con? My spirit tells me, you know you the one. I'm up, niggas, and I already won. My energy is kinetic, and then I pass it on to my son. Each one, teach one, and let it repeat like a rewind. The supreme being, I found my higher self. It was inside me, and I brought it out myself. When they can't reach a level, envy brings out the devil. The devil brings out the metal. And this way of thinking leaves me unsettled. Man, we gotta do better.
The crabs in the bucket, we can't think nothing of it. Haters continue fronting, and the real ones they love it. Once they like vomit, we especially up a bit. Vibe hot like rockets, and we keep it 100. The crabs in the bucket, we can't think nothing of it. Haters continue fronting, and the real ones they love it. Once they like vomit, we especially up a bit. Vibe hot like rockets, and we keep it 100. The crabs in the bucket, we can't think nothing of it. Haters continue fronting, and the real ones they love it. Once they like vomit, we especially up a bit. Vibe hot like rockets, and we keep it 100. The crabs in the bucket, we can't think nothing of it. Haters continue fronting, and the real ones they love it. Rustic like vomit, we especially up a bit. Vibe hot like rockets, and we keep it 100.
Now we're going to go to my brother, Dangerous Music, Hood Politics Part 4.
You are now entering
the love palace
with the goddess,
where we're getting into the lives of the people behind the bars. You feel me?
Now you talking with
the goddess of love, hey. The goddess of love, love.
Now you talking with
the goddess of love, hey. The goddess of love, love.
Now you talking with
the goddess of love, hey. The goddess of love, love.
Now you talking with
the goddess of love, hey. The goddess of love, love. You feel me?
Well, you know, it's so despicable, and think about what kind of monsters take a horrible tragedy like this, a personal tragedy that breaks everybody's heart. Take a tragedy like this and use it to advance some weird political
greatness walked in the building. Now did you miss me? Flat earth don't mean niggas live on the frisbee. Niggas still believe in religion and watch suffering. Niggas put their faith in a system that don't fuck with them. Black gloves cover my hands, committing homicide. Memories, plotting revenge, it left me traumatized. Coming from the bottom and trying to get to the other side. The greatest motivation in life, watching my mother cry. Big corporations still consider it slaves. Freedom got a price, they call it minimum wage. The money make predators, these descendants that pray. But we ain't never done. New beginnings await. If you ain't fucking with me now, you really think I need y'all to roller coaster ride of life? It's kinda like the seesaw, but when you get to this view, everything that seems small. It even got these bitches diving mouth first to these balls. Man, shit change when I get in the V, cause I just let my ego drive when I sit in the seats. I mean, I used to be a bummy nigga, simple and clear. Then I cleaned up and turned into the pimp of the year. Any nigga harming a child is a terrorist. Niggas still believe in the book. Need a therapist, you fly, but you catching the bus. This shit embarrassing. Quick to say you stacking them bucks. This shit hilarious. Niggas thought homie was soft, but he a block nigga. Quiet ones always let off. You gotta watch niggas. Legend is 12 was thirsty and tried to stop niggas. Same cat, him and his mans turned into cop killers.
Authorities say the suspect, age 35, deliberately lured the officers to his home with a 911 call. Waiting for them, armed with an AR-15 assault rifle.
Hey yo, the chosen one, light-skinned nigga, yeah, the golden one. Father to the fire with this shit, I control the sun. Niggas did the double cross thing, got his ball sling, put the barrel under his chin and made his thoughts ring. But fuck the government the way that it stands. every branch attached to it, all the way to Japan. I hope niggas break from it any way that you can. It only take a few steps to walk away from the plan. Shit, I hope niggas wake up, learn we gotta win. School shooting made the news, they turning into a trend. They wanna keep you dumb and blind. Voting for your favorite crooks, always for the lesser evil, never for the greater good. Can't sleep, one eye open like a cyclops. Can't believe none of they truth. This shit is psyops. The sunset, the sunrise, good morning, turn to goodbyes. Meeting at the funeral service, that's when the love dies. Father kills 2-year-old, now that's a monster. Woman shot her husband on live, he need a doctor. Homie didn't make it, of course. See, that's that girl lost. She did that in front of their kids, and the world saw. It's been a few years in this world, been on some crazy shit. Desensitized the mind, they made this shit exist. I'm just trying to tell you the truth. That's the way it is. Hood Politics Part 4. My name Dangerous.
Greetings to the sister Sharon Walker, brother Dangerous. I would love to have a build with you and the brothers and premiere the new music. You know, I'm into that hip hop, brother. That's I love it, and I know what you brothers are going to do is going to resonate. So I'll call you. I'm going to be calling you, brother. We need to talk. Yeah. This stream is about U.S. and China use of child labor in Africa. They have children as young as 2 years old in the cobalt mines to get the metals for the Tesla cars and metals for batteries, Panasonic Duracell Energizer, the batteries for the Tesla vehicles and all the EVs, the electric vehicles that a lot of us enjoy driving. Those of us who are into the electric vehicles. Peace to my brother, Mr. West. And they also have children as young as 2 and 4, you know, actually doing child labor to for the chocolate. One of I think it's the 3rd wealthiest family in the United States. M&M Mars. If you eat M&Ms and the chocolate bars and stuff, just know that it comes from child labor. Now I want to go and share and find that video that I saved. Videos that I saved for this presentation. It's wicked how these people around the world, they said first, Eminem Mars said first they're going to try to eradicate Eminem Mars among other people who make chocolate. They said they're going to eradicate child labor by 2015, and then it was 2020, and now they're talking about they're going to eradicate it by 2025. They keep pushing it up 5 years. Meanwhile, they're getting wealthier and wealthier and wealthier off child labor, which is crazy. This is a damn wicked ass world that we live in with some wicked people. Let me go back to my StreamYard. Yeah, they kicked me out of my stream. They know I'm about to present something that's going to resonate with the people. They always do that. Last time I had a military guy speaking about the war and how wicked they were over there. They sabotaged that stream.
Minerals and rare.
You know, individuals who are, quote, polluters. I know at least one of the bills we're talking about is important with respect to the Duluth complex, right? And that would, it could constitute a sizable portion. I've got 88% down in my notes, but I know it's a very large percent of the cobalt reserves in the United States. Currently, we're highly dependent on China for cobalt, correct?
Very dependent on China for cobalt and many other minerals and rare earth elements.
And is it not true that the Biden administration, with its senseless, job-killing, hard-working American, life-destroying tailpipe rule that will stack up more mandates on electric vehicle production to the tune of something like 2/3 of the production by 2030, that meanwhile EVs are piling up on the lots of automobile dealerships across the country, that in light of that even if one were to say that we should be moving towards electric vehicles, which I think is a reasonable question to debate in and of itself, would it not be foolish to do that on the back of Chinese production and Chinese cobalt mining?
I believe so, and I think you've done a great job of outlining what I would call Democrat utopia. We're going to have our cake and eat it too. We're going to get rid of fossil fuel. We're going to get rid of internal combustion engine vehicles. Everybody's going to drive an EV, and we're not going to mine anything to create the components that go into that EV, or to strengthening the grid, or to building wind and solar and more distributed electrical systems. And it just doesn't work that way. It's a not in my backyard mentality that is forcing our supply chains more and more to China, who has gone out and hoarded resources from around the world. Cobalt is one you mentioned that comes from the Congo, where they use child slave labor.
Right.
They haul it back to China, where they refine it. And by the way, China built 50 gigawatts of coal-powered plants last year. That's one every 5 days. So they can process the minerals and manufacture the stuff to sell to us so that we can save the planet. It makes absolutely no sense.
Representative Ocasio-Cortez, what do you say to that point, right? When we've got a significant amount of evidence that China owns the vast majority, if not all, 80% plus of the cobalt mine production coming out of Congo, et cetera. And we know, I think it's irrefuted, that there's child labor exploited to get those minerals. Those minerals are central, if not fully necessary, for the production of EVs, which even objectively we have to acknowledge are not fully able to power the ability of the American public to get to their jobs and their work and so forth. And yet we're mandating that we have 2/3 of the production be EVs by 2030. So if we follow those mandates by the Biden administration, that debate aside, right? Debate for a different day. If you follow those mandates, you got to have a massive, massive amount of battery production. And by all indication, the vast majority of that Congo production is controlled by China. A huge amount of that has child labor and other issues that we've talked about. And you got trafficked child slaves that are reported in the production of it. Why on earth would we want to limit the ability of Americans to go mine cobalt? Now, I might say, well, that's kind of great because I actually still want the internal combustion engine. I actually think it's more affordable and better for the American worker who wants the plumber in San Marcos, Texas, to be able to go to work and afford the car. But if you buy into the motion of having, EVs that you can drive all over creation, even if you're from Texas and you had to do like I did. Appreciate the chairman pointing out passing on my grandma. I had to drive 6 hours, like 300 miles to go see my grandma Thursday before she passed away, and 6 hours back. I couldn't do that at an EV. I wouldn't have been able to make the round trip in time. But okay, assume we were able to ever produce batteries that last long enough, the charging stations, all the stuff. Why would we get rid of the American production of it?
Thank you. There are several different components to your question. I want to make sure that I address them. First and foremost, on the issue of child exploitation, child labor, I think it is the role of the United States for us to push back forcefully on this production, and not just in the production of energy, but across the board. We see this in textile production, energy production, cobalt mining. It is horrific. And we need to make sure that our sources do not include child labor. But to get to the core of the question too, on the China front, is that I find it interesting that there is this concern about Chinese ownership of minerals, and it is legitimate. However, the response to that seems to be deregulation specifically for companies that are largely Chinese owned here in the United States.
That also explains all the land that China is buying in the United States. I think that happened. Where was that in Georgia, where they ran the Chinese up out of there because they wanted to set up the plants to make the batteries and the energy in a residential area, and the people was like, hell no, you can't bring that here because it's going to cause health issues to the people in the community.
These companies are subsidiaries where the benefit of what we are deregulating here, and I'll give you a specific example. I would be remiss not to mention that the minerals produced specifically at the proposed Twin Metals mine that is implicated in this legislation would most likely be shipped to China for refining and smelting to be sold on the global market. These are not American-owned companies that American mined minerals would be going to. And so if your concern is the Chinese predominance of ownership in the mining market, I would be very concerned about passing this legislation. So that, I think, on the China piece there. And lastly, on the meeting our targets and mining cobalt, I think it's a false choice to say that in order for us to mine cobalt, we either have to destroy some of the most sacred lands in the United States or rely on child labor. There's responsible mining in the United States that is available to us. But secondly, I also find it interesting that the majority presently pushes back against battery recycling, which would allow us to open the path to reducing our reliance on mining in general. There is enormous potential in recycling many of these EV batteries, but we have not made the investments or the shifts necessary in order to unlock that so that we can reduce our reliance on solely mining as the only source of battery. Thank you.
Well, I appreciate that. Before I give my colleague a chance.
See, the batteries that they manufacture in the cobalt minings, those metals don't overheat and cause the vehicles to catch on fire. That's why they want to go to the Congo and other parts of Africa to get that those type of metals. And that explains what was going on when Barack Obama was in the White House and he allowed China to come over to Africa. He just raped them of their natural resources.
Chance to respond as I think he probably wishes to. I would only note that happy to have a conversation.
Peace to my brother, Big Dog Philly OG. Thanks for tapping in, good brother.
Conversation about restricting Chinese ownership of any number of corporate activities in the United States, or ownership of farmland, or ownership of land near military bases, or frankly, ownership of meat packing, production, including mineral production and so forth. Significant reason why it would be mined here and shipped back is because they've got all the production facilities, because they've been building and mining these, because they've got the resources to do that. And here we've got the God-given benefit in America being able to produce very clean burning, Natural gas, very efficient ability to have automobiles that have an internal combustion engine, which are basically fractionally about a 1.5% of the CO2 production when you compare it to what we're producing in China, as the gentleman noted, where they've got 1,100 coal-fired plants burning in China. We have 250, and they're building 2 a week, and we're building none. And yet we're building no nuclear plants except for the Georgia plant that was finally put online 45 years after it was permitted by the Nuclear Regulatory Commission. So I think if we're going to be serious about it, we can't say. I just don't accept the premise that this sort of general notion of, well, we got to push back on the child labor. Well, I mean, we're going to use that child labor unless we find a supply right now, because the Biden administration has put their foot on the gas to say we must have EVs in 2030 at the extent of 2/3 of our entire production line.
This guy is sitting here and acting like if Donald Trump or any other party was in the White House, this still wouldn't be going on. That's a lie, because it was going on when Donald Trump was in office. It was going on when Barack Obama was in office. 2 different parties. It was still going on. And they're talking about eradicating child labor, but they haven't done it yet. They know what's going on and they still allow it.
So Toyota is not a Chinese-owned company, but Toyota has a massive production facility in San Antonio. Tells me that they will largely have to put their entire assembly line starting next year into EVs pretty much only, because they can't financially afford to do otherwise with these mandates on the tailpipe rule, which will be shutting down the internal combustion engine production of the Toyota vehicles. No Chinese ownership there, because that's where they are, which will then mandate the EVs, driving up the price of those vehicles. And then they got to go figure out how to get the batteries and get the production. I know the gentleman seemed like he wanted to jump in on that, and so I'd like to give him a chance to respond.
I appreciate the opportunity to respond. So many things to talk about here, and I agree with the assertion that we don't have the refining and the smelting capacity in the U.S., but that's self-imposed. You go back to 1995, we produced 3 times the copper of China, and today they produce 11 times more copper than us. They have 50 smelters, and we have 2. That's another area of regulation that's forced business like that out of our country to China, and they're making the things that we need. We're exporting wealth to China to build these projects, and we have the resources that have made this country strong, and that are still here to make us strong in the future if we will just use them.
Well, I appreciate the gentleman. I will, in the interest of time, yield back. I know there's other issues.
See, these people are lying, because there are so many products here that we use every day, and more than likely what we wear every day, that was made and manufactured with the use of child labor. So they need to stop being self-righteous, acting like most of the things we use in this country wasn't made with child labor.
Other issues here. I would just push back on the general notion that these aren't important pieces of legislation. I mean, dealing with figuring out how we're going to protect our federal lands and the wildlife and the ability for hunters and anglers to use them, all that stuff are all part of this legislation. And we all share an interest in conservation in that respect. Look at Texas, we have very little federal ownership of the land, happily so. But where we have federal lands, we ought to try to manage it appropriately for good stewardship for multiple generations, including production and AMWR, which is a tiny, tiny fraction of the footprint of the entire state of Alaska. Lots of studies about wildlife benefits and so forth, but we'll put that aside for a different day, and I'll yield back my time.
Thank you, Mr. Roy. Ms. Scanlon?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I am very concerned that these bills are a huge step back for our environment and our endangered species. They seem to be predicated on a false kind of a binary choice. And I don't think it's true that President Biden or Democrats or the American people have any interest in having a blanket prohibition on development, but we do want a system that fairly takes into account public safety, conservation, and the damage to our environment and our children's future if we aren't taking those into consideration. So can you comment on that?
Absolutely, Representative Scanlon. As you noted, particularly in the public land rule, specifically, this shift in the rule is not even to put conservation and restoration above, energy production, recreation, or any other considerations. It's simply to allow the consideration to be on equal footing. And I would emphatically push back on the notion that conservation is just simply cordoning off, that this rule is just about conservation and cordoning off several acres of land and saying there's nothing to be done here. But this is also about land restoration. And there are so many acres of land, federal lands, public lands. This is land that belongs to the people of the United States of America, that has been dumped on, that has been allowed to be overridden with toxic waste, that people are getting.
The United States have been for sale for a long time. People in foreign countries are buying up the land. They're even buying the tunnels and the bridges. And the state highways are privately owned, but they got state police on there contracted to patrol the highways. This has been going on since I can remember. And I'm in my 58th year of life.
Getting sick from, that species are becoming endangered from, and to allow that to simply be in equal consideration as the federal government and the Bureau of Land Management doles out and makes.
Peace to my brother, Key Norfolk, the Nation One Love podcast.
Decisions, oftentimes affirmatively about energy production, I think is eminently reasonable.
I think that makes a lot of sense, that we're trying to balance some competing concerns, but that we really do need to take into account these conservation concerns. So I would yield back.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Scanlon. Mr. Scott?
Now we're going to go inside the Congo Cobalt mines where they have child labor and that they exploit children.
This is one of the thousands of unregulated, unmonitored mines in the DRC. It's crawling with children, working like modern-day slaves. A 12-hour-long day of punishing work may earn them the equivalent of £1. Although one of the poorest countries on earth, DRC is rich in minerals. But a history of brutal colonial exploitation looks like being repeated now in 2017. Much of it's mined by hand with rudimentary tools in harsh, potentially hazardous conditions. And wretched whether or not, the rush is on for a mineral the DRC has in great abundance, cobalt, and it's fast becoming more precious than gold. It's a critical ingredient in lithium-ion batteries which power smartphones and laptops. An army of children are at the heart of the mining production. Wearing no shoes and in the most wretched conditions, Dawson is ordered to retrieve the sack he's forgotten. There's an urgency now. The rains make this dangerous work even more risky, and Dawson's told in no uncertain terms he risks a beating if he messes up again. Dawson, with Richard beside him, have worked all day. They're 8 and 11 years old. Even this punishing work doesn't guarantee enough for food. Dawson hasn't eaten for 2 days now. This is what helpless looks like, and he's one of the children making millions for multinational corporations in America and China whilst they suffer in squalor. For this, they'll get maybe 8 British pence a day.
Walitusukuma tunaenda tena tunarudia. Ndio nashikia sana mkongo inauma. Kama mimi natumia mkongo nimemwaka na mbavu na nikula kinapita kile mlima.
The tunnels are dug by hand with no supports. They frequently collapse, especially during rain. The miners climb down using holes carved in the rock and no safety equipment. This most precious of minerals is often extracted and sorted by tiny.
Can you imagine having or going inside a tunnel that have no support, and that land can slide any second and somebody can be buried alive. That's crazy. And they're subjecting children to this.
Many hands. They don't wear gloves or masks, yet the World Health Organization says exposure to cobalt and breathing in its dust fumes can cause long-term health problems. We visited 5 different mines across the south of DRC and found all used child workers. Monica's the youngest worker in this group at just 4. But even those barely able to walk have lost their childhoods to mining. Natalie's 12 years old. My fingers hurt, she tells us. Miles away on a different site, Makumba Mateba shows us the cobalt tunnel he's dug with 3 of his friends. It's physically tough work. They removed all this rock by hand over nearly 4 months.
It's incredibly insecure for them, although this is really rich in minerals and it's going down just 15 meters. There's no support bars, they have no protective masks or protective equipment at all. And right at the bottom, I can see water.
It's his village's water which Makumba's convinced has caused his health problems. After a lifetime of drinking it, he has a huge tumor on his throat.
Quand on est en train de travailler à Kitowe, là où on cultive la tomate, en train de cultiver, si j'ai soif, je pars puiser de l'eau.
There are countless reports of other health problems from those living nearby and working on the mines.
On trouve les infections, minimum infection, je retourne à Onako. Kasi mama anatumika makariere sana, tazala mtoto na mainfection shulungula, mwingine kuna vima buton, mwingine ndio tunaona don makozi linatoka mama mimba nenda makariere.
These twins are just 2 days old, and although small, so far they're healthy, to the relief of their mother.
Hii maminereishi unaleta maproblem kama wewe mwanamke unaenda kutumika hapo. Inaleta maproblem na difficulty kama kuna mimba. Shi mwanamke ni mama yangu kunetupeleka kukwesa mama yangu kunetupeleka tunaenda kutumika.
But even if they stay healthy, the twins face a lifetime of hard labor as soon as they can walk. The children's cobalt is...
They actually make the women mine in the cobalt mines while they're pregnant. She said that they make them mine and they worry about, instead of having a baby, they worry about having some mutant, because the water in the mines are toxic, because they're going down deep into the tunnels in the mines with all those metals and minerals. They're not minerals for consumption. They're minerals for like cell phones and laptops and computers and electric cars, like mineral for batteries. You can't have that. You can't ingest that and consume that. Mineral for batteries
is sold cheaply to mostly Chinese traders who we film secretly. They don't ask questions about where their cobalt comes from or who's worked to extract it. They just want the best price.
The black part here is cobalt.
Even those who aren't Chinese, this trading market has Indian owners, told us they sell onto the dominant Chinese exporter of cobalt, CDM. The cobalt first mined here is then sold again to the Chinese parent company, which then supplies some of the world's biggest battery makers. And those batteries, with ingredients which originated in DRC, end up in, for instance, smartphones. It's an intricate supply chain which allows easy deniability for the multinationals making huge profits. An investigation last year by Amnesty found similar human rights abuses. Nothing appears to have changed. Most of these child miners will never own a smartphone. They barely survive from day to day. And many other children like Dorsan will be back again tomorrow, digging out one of the most sought-after minerals of our time for a pittance. Alex Crawford.
The worst thing that young brother a few years ago put those two metals together and he powered up something and they seen that's what made them go over to Africa and started taking the metals. Everybody got their hand in this. Everybody. They're over there and somebody is above the child labor. Somebody is exploiting their own people. I can guarantee you this. This is not they got, using a slave mentality. They got an overseer and they got a head nigga in charge exploiting his own people.
Sky News in the DRC.
We're gonna stay consistent with this for a few seconds. Then we'll move on to the iconic chocolate brand linked
In
to
a
child
forgotten
labor.
corner of Madagascar, deep inside a bat-filled cave, miners are finishing up a 14-hour day.
How old are they? Eight. 10.
They work 7 days a week. None of them go to school.
Listen to the wordplay. They have miners who are minors working 12 hours a day. The wordplay is they have miners who are minors working 12 hours a day, 7 days a week for what you call it, Madagascar, Mika mines, outright wicked.
If they don't dig, they don't eat. See those holes?
Peace to my brother, King Genocide. Peace, KG.
Every one a 50-foot airless mica pit. And in nearly every hole, a child. These kids are helping satisfy the world's dependence on mica. Sometimes called a magic mineral, it's used in every car, every phone, and every plane because it doesn't overheat. It's estimated that more than 10,000 children work here in the mica mines. They earn pennies a day if they're paid at all.
They don't have any money, they don't have any choice.
We meet this family of 5. They live on less than $3 a week and 1 cup of rice a day. And what they have is 1 cup of rice.
One cup of rice for 5 of them. That's pathetic, right?
For nearly a year, NBC News has investigated the plight of these children, tracking the mica they dig.
These are literal babies working here. They are babies. Look how small these children are. Outright crazy. Is that Pam? Is that Pam Mika? That sound like that damn character on Martin, Gina's friend, the fake friend, Pam Mika.
Big to China, and then to some of the world's biggest companies, Panasonic, Electrolux, which provides the military with insulation for batteries, and CRRC, owned by the Chinese government. They're making trains for Boston, Philadelphia, Chicago, and Los Angeles, loaded with Madagascar mica. We take our findings to Washington.
It has to be stopped.
They barely make a percentage in comparison to the multi-billion-dollar industry that they're getting this metal for. A cup of rice per day, beyond wicked.
Where Democratic Senators Ron Wyden and Sherrod Brown have been working since 2015 to end the importation of products made with child labor.
When you show what these families go through, what these children are subjected to, it's just unimaginable to think of my grandchildren doing this. So do most of your viewers think the same way. They'd say to these companies, you can't keep operating this way.
If we can shine the hot light of visibility and accountability, which your stories will help us to do, that can help us clean up the supply chain.
You know, the people who are doing the mining, they say, don't take our work away from us. We don't want you to ban mica. We just want a living wage.
These companies are going to have to raise their wages and pay a living wage to the adults that are doing this and treat them better.
But that will take time. Meanwhile, these children, like thousands of others, dig. Every breath laced with mica. It is what they have. It is all they have.
Cynthia, this is absolutely heartbreaking. And this is what we're talking about. This is what it's all about. I know senators that you talk to want action. They've got questions also for some companies, right?
Absolutely. Now, as for those companies that we talked to, Lester, we mentioned Electrolux. They call our findings disturbing, and they reached out to their suppliers. Panasonic says that their guidelines prohibit child labor. And CRRC says they support responsible sourcing and encourage suppliers to investigate. We will see more.
Hey, NBC News fans, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on.
Now we're going to go to where they make get the ingredients for the chocolate for M&M Mars in Ghana.
Chocolate is one of America's favorite treats, but a CBS News investigation found the cocoa used by candy giant Mars is harvested by impoverished children in Africa. Deborah Pata gets a closer look in this exclusive report.
Laboring in the blistering heat here, as young as 6, slicing the grass with lethal ease, their machetes nearly half the size of the smallest among them. These Ghanaian children are harvesting the cocoa that ends up in America's best-loved chocolates like M&Ms and Snickers. Instead of going to school, they are learning that sharp blades cut deep and big corporations make promises they seldom keep. We traveled across Ghana's remote cocoa belt, visiting small subsistence farms that supply U.S. chocolate giant Mars, and found children working on every one of them. Mars boasts about rescuing thousands of children who are listed as beneficiaries of what it calls their robust monitoring system that keeps them off plantations and in schools. CBS News obtained copies of these lists from a whistleblower.
We're going to try and find some of the children on these lists and see if the information checks out.
Our first stop, 15-year-old Munira.
And your name, I think, is on this list. Is that you?
Here she is, toiling away on her family farm, her life since she was just 5 years old. School's a luxury she's hardly ever been.
I feel sad. I want to be a medical doctor, but they don't have money to support me.
The family harvested only 1 bag of cocoa the entire year. A 140-pound sack fetches around $115. Last year, field supervisors contracted by Mars.
And this is all they gave you?
Gave Munira a backpack and school books with the slogan, "I am a child, I play, I go to school." In the nearly 18 months since then, nobody has checked to see if she is still in school. This cocoa field supervisor for the past 13 years spoke out on condition we hide his identity.
Personally, I've made lists before. I've made up lists before. And I can say on authority that almost every data is cool.
Or incorrect.
It's not correct. Nobody has come back to check as to whether it's true or not.
CBS News spoke to nearly a dozen children on that list used by Mars. None of them were in school, nor had they been regularly monitored to ensure they attended classes.
No one came here ever?
The few children that do go to school, instead of pencils, are carrying machetes.
Put your hands up if you work on the cocoa farms.
All these students told us they harvest cocoa either before or after school. We have repeatedly asked Mars for an interview. They declined every request.
Hi, good morning.
A security guard asked us to leave their headquarters when we went there.
Can you please leave?
Hi.
And we even went to the CEO's home to try and get answers.
No, sorry, he's not here.
We always have some Negro gatekeeping and serving to the detriment of their own people. He's probably getting paid a little bit of money himself, and that's enough for him to sell all of his people out, all the way to the young people. Ridiculous.
U.S. human rights lawyer Terry Collingsworth also wants answers. He's filed a proposed class action lawsuit for consumer fraud against American chocolate manufacturer Mars and others.
They're telling the public that we're rehabilitating this kid, and then they're cynically coming here and just checking a box, and the kid is back working the next day.
He has collected statements from Ghanaian children working for Mars suppliers.
Okay. Thank you for being very brave.
Like these little boys, doing the backbreaking work of adult men. Tiny hands struggling with the dangerous work of hacking open cocoa pods, the long blade narrowly missing this 5-year-old's fingers. The owners of Mars are the third wealthiest family in the US, raking in billions every year, much of it from chocolate. Billions made on the backs of these young children.
And we are grateful to have Deborah Pata joining us. It's an amazing piece, Deborah. Let's start with Mars pledged a long time ago to stop this. Why haven't they?
They were part of a group of the big chocolate companies that vowed to eradicate child labor. It was called the Harkin-Engel Protocol, signed with the assistance of Congress, and they missed every deadline. It was 2005, 2008, 2010, and then I think 2020, now 2025. Every single one was missed. Partly, I don't think there is the will. It is a hard problem on some levels. It's also not a difficult problem. And it just takes a huge concentration of not so much resources, but effort. And that effort has just not been put in because I think people essentially don't seem to care. They pay lip service to it, but it never happens.
I'm going to ask you about that effort in a minute, but Munira, you have been in touch with her. What's the current status of her story?
Well, she was the young girl in our piece who 15 years old, has been working since she's 5, desperately wants to go to school. And in fact, 2 representatives from a company contracted by Mars visited her after our report, played our report for her, tried to intimidate her. And, you know, she told us that her mother did, in fact, that they wanted her to retract some of what she said. So a cease and desist order has actually been sent to Mars from the lawyer representing her as part of this case, saying, you know, she should not be involved and intimidated in any way.
And how do the parents sort all of this?
The parents, it's interesting because people say, well, the parents know. These are family farms. Ghana is made up of small subsistence farms. It's not big plantations. Think tiny little farms. The mother we spoke to said it breaks her heart that her child isn't going to school. She wishes, but they simply cannot afford it. It's expensive. Transport costs money. Books cost money. Getting there. And if the family doesn't work, they starve. They can't afford to hire laborers. So it's this vicious cycle of poverty.
And you were talking earlier about what it would take to solve this problem. What would it take?
It takes a few things. First of all, money. They need to pay the farmers more. It's $115 for one sack, 140 pounds. Some families make that for the entire year. They simply need to, I think consumers would be thrilled, personally, to know that an extra few cents of the chocolates they're buying is going to send a child to school. They need to pay the farmers for. They also need to help with schools. These kids don't need school books. They need schools. They need schools that are set up that they can go to school and not have to travel long distances to get there. One mother said,
M&M Mars, they're the third wealthiest family in America, and they're getting it with child labor. They could simply build a community that won't even be a fraction of what they're making with their candy bars or whatever else they make with M&M Mars. And they can build schools also, a fraction of what they're making. They can build schools and community for the people that's making them filthy rich. But that's too much like right for wicked people.
Said to me, you can give me a bicycle and then my child can cycle to school, which I thought was quite innovative.
Yeah. Deborah Pata, who goes all over the world for us, and we're so grateful. And it's a pleasure to say thank you in person. Thank you, Deborah.
John.
Now, I want to change the direction of the stream now and go to a Negro who served to the detriment of his people. Now, this Negro named Coleman Hughes did a stream called The Roots of Black Antisemitism. And there's no such thing. There he goes making up another word, throwing his own people under the bus. There's no such thing as Black anti-Semitism. It's like saying Black identity extremists. They always make up derogatory words and put them on our people. Listen to this numbskull and his rhetoric, getting his self-hate on with this guy here.
So Coleman, thank you so much for doing this. I think we should get started.
Sure.
This is the latest installment in something we've tried to do with Sapir from the very beginning, which is to take at least a few of the authors we're fortunate to publish in our journal and go a little deeper with a conversation like this, which is done somewhat deliberately in an informal style for our readers who have been dedicated to what we do. So you have written, actually it's over a month ago that we published the latest issue of Sapir, Friends and Foes. It is our 12th issue. It is our biggest issue. And I think you wrote, among many luminous essays, you wrote one of the most interesting and probably, given what is happening on campus right now, one of the most timely. You wrote about Black radicalism. So I want to welcome you to this conversation. Thank you for writing. And before we get to—
Listen to the spew of self-hate coming.
To your essay, I want to take advantage, Coleman, of the fact that you are, I think, a 2018 graduate of Columbia.
2020.
Sorry?
2020.
Oh my gosh, you're even younger than I thought.
No, I'm not. I'm not, because I started 2 years later than you're assuming.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. At any rate, you are a relatively recent graduate of Columbia, at least for those of us who are now approaching our 30th our 30th anniversaries of graduation. But I want to ask you this. I'm sure I know, seeing from your social media posts, I know you've been following closely what's happening up in Morningside Heights. Given your experience as a student at Columbia, does anything that you are seeing now surprise you, shock you, or would you say that you could have seen it coming given where the school was a few years ago?
Yeah, there's nothing at all that has surprised me. What I was at Columbia between 2016 and 2020, and 2015 and 2020. The climate around the Israel-Palestine issue was precisely the same as it is now. It's just that there was no major war in Israel or the occupied territories at that time. Had there been a war, we would have seen something very similar. Every year at Columbia, when I was there, probably still, there's 1 week where you had the Students for Justice in Palestine would protest all week. And these were actually peaceful protests, lots of chanting. And there were just, that was a huge group of students. And then you would have a tiny group of Jewish students. I forget what the Jewish group was called. Probably less than 1/10 the size, maybe 1/50th the size, that would counter protest on the other side of campus, kind of separated by 100 yards or so. And we would have that week every single year. And I think in my junior or senior year, I had 1 or 2 friends in the Jewish group, because I was in a debate club called Colloquia, and there was there was some crossover between those 2 groups. So I walked by them during that week, and I said hi to them and started chatting with them outside Butler Library. and a student from the the SJP group came up to the Jewish table, opened her laptop, and had it read out the word shame 1,000 times in a row, something like that, in the computer voice. And so that's what the state of conversation, if we could call it, was when I went there. So nothing I've seen in the past few weeks has surprised me.
Let me ask you, I mean, I think you could go back even perhaps 10 years, a dozen years earlier when Barry Weiss was on campus and the film Columbia Unbecoming was made. It's a long story. But to what extent do you see this as kind of student-driven idealism, or is it maybe, and is it faculty-led radicalism?
This man is he used a lot of deceptive intelligence. Now, students in college have always protested civic things and world things. They always have protested. He's going to act like there's some new phenomenon that students are protesting a war. Students have always protested war. Always, since I was born and before then, because there's footage of it, they've always protested war and injustices. I don't know, some of them are real with it, and some of them do it just so they can look back and say, I was there when this happened or that happened, because some of them, I know people, they was on the front line protesting. Everywhere you go, you'll see them, but as soon as they graduated, they got them a job on Wall Street and was out to fight. So we have to question, and we have to be mindful of who we support when they go through something, because you can't fight somebody's fight more than they're fighting their fight. You assist them in their fight, but you don't fight their fight for them. Now, I learned this lesson when I watched Botham Jean's brother embrace Amber Geiger when she was being sentenced for killing his brother. Out of all that support we gave this family, they embraced the killer of their loved one. We got to be careful with that.
Some symbiosis in between, perhaps. But where's the energy coming from? Because I get the sense as an outsider that this is as much faculty-driven as it is student-driven.
Yeah, I think that it's symbiotic. Absolutely. You have lots of faculty members that are on one side of the issue and egg students on in class, signal their approval for the pro-Palestinian side of the equation and their disapproval for the pro-Israel side of the equation. And on the other hand, you have an enormous amount of student-led activism as well. I think when I was a freshman, Students for Justice in Palestine would go knocking door to door on freshmen's doors, and you'd open your door and they have a flyer and they said, we're SJP, we want to make you aware that there's an apartheid state and there's a colonial entity called Israel and we really care, right? And they just go door to door to door. And this is how they recruit a lot of people and create like generally an atmosphere that there is that there's an issue akin to apartheid South Africa. This is the apartheid issue of our generation, and everyone's got to be on the right side of it. So there's a symbiotic relationship, absolutely.
One difference between, well, I don't know, certainly between when I went to college in the early 90s and the present, is that there is on every campus, and certainly every elite campus in America, a large DEI apparatus, both administratively and and ideologically on every campus. And you have written about this at length. I should mention here that just a couple of months ago, your book, The End of Race Politics, came out, and I encourage everyone to order the book as soon as we're done with this conversation. But one claim that is made by opponents of DEI is that there is something within it ideologically that breeds not just an anti-Israel mentality, but frequently bleeds into a kind of anti-Semitic mentality. And I'd like to ask you to sort of explore the extent to which that claim strikes you as a valid one, or not.
Okay, this I think is the crux of the issue. And it's a great question. I want to answer it though by talking a little bit about my experience at Columbia and how students thought about this issue. So when I was at Columbia, you would hear someone make an offhand comment about white people, denigrating, probably every week. White men in particular, sometimes white women too, white people, just all kinds of casually denigrating comments towards white people as a whole, white society, all the time. In my 4 years at Columbia, I don't think I ever remember someone saying an anti-Semitic comment or saying anything analogous really about Jews in general. And
so what they're trying to do now is say if you speak about racism, white supremacy, or anti-blackness, they're trying to make that anti-Semitic now. Just listen.
What that tells me is that the way kids think about all these issues are through the prism of whiteness and blackness, oppressed equated with blackness and Hispanicness, oppressor equated with whiteness. And that
that's been the narrative because that's been the narrative, meaning that's been what's going on. If you look at all over the world, the clips I just showed with the child labor in the Congo and in Ghana, I'm absolutely certain there is a Caucasian or a Asian involved in profiting from the child labor. So the narrative of a oppressor being white is valid.
Because, as an American, 99% of the Jews are Ashkenazi Jews who look white. I think that people have made the equation between Jews and white people, and then and therefore Jews are oppressors because they're white, right? That's how the thinking goes. Now, when it comes to the issue of Israel-Palestine, I think the reason they are so invested in this issue is because their entire moral prism is oppressed.
See, they're trying to say that Jewish people aren't white, and they're trying to turn Judaism into a race as opposed to being a religion or faith. Drake is a Jewish person. I know people who are not white that are Jewish people. I know them personally, who are a brother, I say that in quotes, who is Jewish. So to say, they're not white, and because they appear to be white, if you appear to be white, what the hell are you? Other than white.
Oppressed versus oppressor. And that, I want to put a fine point on what I mean by that. What I mean by that is, I remember years ago when I was reading the history of the slavery debates in the 1850s between pro-slavery and anti-slavery intellectuals. It struck me that everyone framed their argument in Christian terms. The people that were against slavery were against it because for Christian reasons, and the people that were pro-slavery were pro-slavery for Christian reasons, because they're
Now, I rock with this. All that was done in the name of Jesus. Now, I rock with that part. You know, the oppressors, they say they're saving you, or they say they're killing you in the name of Jesus. And just because somebody, is a certain class of people who are racist and who are the oppressor. Not all white people. When somebody says somebody's the oppressor, you're not talking about the hard-working fireman next door. You're not talking about him. We're talking about that dude that they so-called elite, the one who oppressed the white fireman living next door to me. We're talking about him.
their whole universe was Christianity.
Mhm.
Every argument had to be framed that way. It wouldn't have made sense to frame an argument using other concepts. Analogously, the way that kids think morally in terms of what is good, what is bad, is entirely based on intersectionality, oppressor versus oppressed, whiteness versus blackness. That's their whole moral universe. It's the only tool, really moral tool, that they have in their toolkit. And so they've been persuaded that the Israel-Palestine issue fits right into that. It's the paradigm case of a quote unquote white group oppressing a brown group.
Yeah.
And so what motivates it is not.
That's not true. I wouldn't care who it is. If you are mistreating, you are bombing people, you are killing people, everybody should be against that, no matter who's doing it. No matter who's doing it, everybody should be against that. The loss of life and the destroying of people property and land, bombing hospitals and bombing people's homes and all that, everybody should be against that. They're making it. You know who mostly do that? Multi-ethnic destruction in America. The media. They the one who do that. Make it what it is, controlling the narrative. The media does this.
That classic European anti-Semitism per se, though I think ironically it can create that. It can push people towards that, and I think we're seeing it now. But the core of the motive for them is that this fits right into their ideology of oppressor versus oppressed. And of course, what they don't understand is anything about the history of Israel, everything about the history of the settlement of Israel by Jewish refugees, which makes it disanalogous to all the other examples of colonialism. But that's really at the core. And
What I'm at, the question I have is, if it was, if it was Germany under Hitler that oppressed the Jewish people, why didn't they, after Hitler was killed, why didn't they take that land and set up a state of Israel over in Germany instead of going all the way over to Palestine and settling there, taking land, and it's been conflict over there ever since.
And that's why, DEI is the way you ask the question. DEI and intersectionality are essentially the same ideology. And I think Jews are always going to be identified as oppressors in that framework.
But I should add to those tuning in, there is a Q&A function at the bottom of your screens. And as Coleman says things that spark a question in your mind, and please make it a question, add it to the Q&A function. And then in the last, hopefully 20 minutes of this conversation, I'm going to turn to as many of those questions as I can. I want to turn to your essay, Coleman, which is...
I'm going to move on to the question, are Jewish people white? This question and more answered. on MSNBC. I think his name is Emmanuel.
The House passed a bipartisan bill yesterday that would establish a wider definition of anti-Semitism amid protests at universities across the country. We've been covering some of that live this morning. The legislation will give the Department of Education broader powers to crack down on anti-Semitism on college campuses. It also requires the department to use the definition of anti-Semitism put forward by the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance when enforcing anti-discrimination laws. Joining us now to talk more about this, the former Israeli Special Envoy for Combating Anti-Semitism, best-selling author Noah Tishby, and former NFL.
One thing we're not going to do or allow is let the mere criticism of Jewish people or pointing out wrong that a particular Jewish person do, we're not going to make that anti-Semitism. That's not going to be allowed. Just a mere criticism or pointing out wrong of a person, that means that you are saying a whole entire person, you against the whole entire person because you point out the wrongs and the wickedness of one person, that makes you anti-Semite? No, it does not. If you point out the wrong and the wickedness of an individual, it does not mean you indicting that whole people. We're not going to allow that.
NFL linebacker and creator of the anti-racial digital series Uncomfortable Conversations with a Black Man, best-selling author Emmanuel Acho. They are co-authors of the new book, Perfect Timing, Uncomfortable Conversations with a Jew. That's the title. Good to have you both.
Great to be here. So thank you for coming back. Talk about this book. Talk about where it began.
Well, it began 2 years ago. After writing Uncomfortable Conversations with a Black Man, I realized, very simply put, we would all be better as a society if we didn't fight in silos. If Black people didn't just fight for Black people, women fighting for women, but what if the Jewish community fought alongside the Black community? What if the white community fought alongside the Black community rather than fighting against one another? What if we identified the common enemy, which was hate, which was oppression?
You know, if was a fifth, we'll all be drunk. This dude is delusional, and he's an idealist. He's not a realist. He's an idealist. What if? Get the fuck out of here.
Oppression, which is marginalization. So I actually reached out to Noah prior to October 7th. We've been penning this book for a long time because I wanted to educate myself, and she could help me do that, because with education, I believe, comes empathy. And Noah said yes.
Oh, said yes very quickly. So it's very important to actually understand that Emmanuel noticed the rise in anti-Semitism, specifically from the Black community, way before a lot of people did. And he was like, wait a minute, I'm a Black man. I don't want to speak for you. And
now, that's what you call deceptive intelligence right there. And she said he recognized anti-Semitism in Black people way before anybody else. And who is he to say that we are that way or we express anti-Jewish thoughts? If it's anybody that don't express that type of feelings, it would be us. Because if you look at who's on the campuses protesting, you don't hardly see us. What we're doing today, we're staying out of other people's fights. That's what we're doing. We're staying out of other people's fights. Now, he's saying that Black people, he's throwing his own people under the bus and serving to his own detriment by saying that the number one anti-Semite is one of us. When first, so much money have been made off us, whether we're an athlete, actor, actress, all of entertainment. All of entertainment. A lot of brothers and sisters have been exploited by these executives. So he's going to say, we are the number one anti-Semite. And if you look at his name, Emmanuel Acho, he's a damn tether. That's what he is. He's a tether. He's not one of us, so he can't even speak on our behalf. He's not one of us. He's from somewhere else. Emmanuel Acho, that's a damn African.
In that context, but he's like, I noticed this when Jewish people noticed this, and not when people from outside the community did. And he reached out and wanted to be a true ally, which is what this book is about.
Talk about.
Yes, he's an ally to others, and he's serving to the detriment of those who look like him. But he cannot speak on our behalf because he's not one of us. See, I'm not against Africans, but I'm against anybody who serves to the detriment of my people, even if that person looked like me.
The unique challenges, though, the horrific challenges that have arisen for Jews across the world. I mean, I always remind people there are only 15 million Jews in the world for a reason. And
what is that reason? Go ahead and say because most of them was killed, and you'll be lying.
And talk about the rise there, and especially among radicals who call Jews white European colonialists when Israel was created 3 years after white European colonialists marched 6 million Jews into ovens.
Yeah, I mean, look, the fact that some in the extreme left were able to brand Israel a colonialist state is one of the most brilliant feats in crazy land.
Yeah.
Because literally Israel is a refugee state which was decolonized from Great Britain. So when these people chant today, we want 48, we don't want 2 states, we want 48, they're talking about going back to British colonialism.
Right.
I'm not entirely sure. And this is to what we were talking about, that anti-Zionism is the new form of anti-Semitism. This is exactly what we're seeing right now on college campuses.
So can you tell me though why kids in college and I call them kids because I'm an old dude. I got kids.
They're kids.
But why?
Okay. So what about Jewish people who are against the state of Israel and are against the Zionists? What are they? Are they anti themselves? Are they anti-Semitic? Are they anti themselves because they don't support the state of Israel or the Zionists? Are they anti-Semitic or are they anti themselves? I know where he's going right now. He's going to that river to the sea narrative that they control, that they made, that they lied about.
How did they get to a point where they started chanting genocidal phrases from the river to the sea? And they don't.
That is not a genocidal phrase. It's not. I'm going to look that up right now. What does from the river to the sea means? I'm looking it up right now. What does from the river to the sea mean? They said it's a genocidal phrase. Okay, I'm going to use AP News, Associated Press News, and I'm going to use Wikipedia. From the river to the sea is a political phrase that refers to geographically to the area between the Jordan River and the Mediterranean Sea, an area historically called Palestine, which today includes Israel and the Israel-occupied Palestine territories of the West Bank and the Gaza Strip. From the river to the sea. Somebody merely chanting from the river to the sea is not a genocidal chant. Perhaps somebody want peace from the river to the sea. Just saying from the river to the sea does not mean that you wish any harm on somebody. See, that's why I call them multi-ethnic destruction in America. That's the media. Or I call them, as my brother Professor Griffiths would say, maniac European devils in action. That's what they are. And that's crazy. Now, they want us to believe that students saying, first they're saying peace in the Middle East. They're saying peace in the Middle East. They're saying ceasefire. And then they're saying from the river to the sea. All you have to do is tie all that together. People want a ceasefire. They want peace from the river to the sea. Nobody's saying kill somebody from the river to the sea. They're just saying from the river to the sea after they said ceasefire, after they said peace in the Middle East. But these manipulative, deceptive intelligence media want people, they want to control a narrative and create a narrative that the students are saying from the river to the sea as a genocidal chant.
They don't even know. A lot of them don't even know what they're proposing.
They don't know what they're proposing. So the thing about what's happening right now on college campuses, it's three things that we have to understand. First of all, it's obviously not peaceful. Second, it's not grassroots because it's well coordinated, well funded. For example, the tents, all of them have green.
So you're going to say because people organize that students don't know how to organize? Is students organize better than that on a high school level? So you can't say student because they're organized and they have tents and, you know, they're going to blame it on the faculty and staff that the students know how to organize. They see a cause like they did in the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, all the way up today. They see a cause that they feel that they could make a difference in, and they're standing up.
Green tents, it's very puzzling. And the most important thing is that it's not true. So the kids that are actually...
See, I guess it's easy to puzzle her. A tent will guard them in case it start raining while they're doing their sit-in. That puzzles her. But for a person who think in simplicity and think practical, they would get a tent because they're doing a sit-in on a college lawn. In the event that it start raining, we have tents. See, she's not bright at all.
Protesting and think that they're doing the best thing for humanity. What happened is that they have been brainwashed by TikTok to believe that Zionism necessitates.
Here we go. An attack on TikTok. They've been brainwashed by TikTok. So they're going to take an app and say an app brainwashed. She is nutty as a damn Snicker.
The genocide of Palestinians. They were trained, literally brainwashed by TikTok to believe that Israel is a colonialist state. And that's been happening for decades.
What do you mean by TikTok?
Well,
Like,
I mean that...
So you said that's been happening for decades. TikTok has not been around for decades. She just contradicted her dumb self.
They're all, we know what's happening on TikTok in terms of numbers and what is being pushed on TikTok in terms of anti-Israel.
This is why they want to get rid of TikTok, because TikTok is a app that young entrepreneurs can make money off, and it's a massive worldwide app where people can actually get on that app freely and not be sanctioned or their materials being taken down because they're telling the truth or they're using a different narrative than the narrative that's being controlled. That's why they don't like TikTok, because TikTok is not censoring people from saying what's on their damn mind. That's why they don't like TikTok. They want to ban TikTok here in America. They telling TikTok, find another owner, an owner that's going to be obedient to the community guidelines that they set on these other apps. Facebook, Google, the one I'm on now, YouTube. They want people to bow down and acquiesce to them. So they tell TikTok to find another owner that they can control, or we're going to ban it. Why? Because they don't want people to have freedom of speech. They don't want freedom of speech. Now, YouTube is on a what you call it? A free. This is free, but they set up community guidelines. You can't say this. You can't say that. You have to be with the narrative that they set, or they'll shut you down for a week, or they just take your channel altogether. Or they'll take videos off that they disagree with. They'll say, this is hate, this is bullying, this is anti-Semitic, or this is hate. But if you ask them what I said that was hateful, they're going to say it's hate because I said so.
Israel and anti-Semitic rhetorics. Like, we actually have the numbers. It's insane. It's through the roof. And these kids
by
don't
the way, run Rev by the communist Chinese government.
Who wants to see the division? One of the things that interests me about your book, and I want to address this to Emmanuel, it is uncomfortable conversations we have to have.
Yeah.
When I started talking with Rabbi Pesner and Jonathan Greenblatt with ADL, trying to bring us together, and they had to confront me. Well, you were involved with some things that we felt were anti-Semitic, and I said no.
You were involved with someone who they felt was anti-Semitic. Yes, you were. You were involved with someone that they felt is anti-Semitic. Peace to my brother Voodoo Child. He was involved with someone in the 1980s and the 1990s. He was about to lie, because it was once upon a time that Al Sharpton and the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan was close. He was involved with somebody that they felt is anti-Semitic.
I didn't say this, but I did allow certain things that I was insensitive to. And I think on the other side, they had to understand how some felt in the Black community. These kind of candid conversations really test the sincerity of both sides, of whether we really believe what we say, or are we just going to keep taking shots at each other. Talk about that, because there have been tensions. And I think some distortions on both sides that we need to put out front, because usually the people that are anti-Semitic are also anti-Black.
Correct. Well, the first question I had to ask myself is, what in the world is anti-Semitic?
See, that's a good statement that Al Sharpton made for a change, because the most people who are anti-Semitic, they can't put that on us. The most people who are anti-Semitic is the white supremacist, the skinheads, the Nazis, and all them. Those type of people, the ones walking around with their heads shaved and don't give a damn about nobody. Those are the most people who are anti-Semitic. Can't put that on us.
Semitism. Is there a Semite group that you can be anti? Because if you don't know what anti-Semitism is, how can you avoid being anti-Semitic? And so the very first thing I had to do was say, hey, Noah, what is anti-Semitism? And she said, it's actually interesting. It's both looking down at a Jew and looking up at a Jew, assuming that there is some sort of like covert powers that be that are monopolizing and manipulating the world at large. And so I asked her that. But then I also asked her the question, well,
now if this fool don't know by now, as a grown-ass 200-plus pound man, that is somebody controlling every goddamn thing in this world, he's a damn idiot. He's an idiot.
are Jews white?
There's no way in hell a system is going to work itself without having manipulators. The system is set up so good and precise that it does its job on its own because they work years to develop the system. And he's a part of the system. I guarantee you, if he was back here with us as opposed to being in the NFL at one time, his ass would not be sitting there with them talking about an uncomfortable conversation with a Jew. Shit, he made money with them anyway.
Because in America, if you're non-Jewish, you perceive Jewish people as white. And we've simplified things in society, Rev, to black and white. We've projected our Western ideologies onto thousands of years of Middle Eastern nuance. And so if we couple the Jewish community into the white community, and in America there's tension between the black community and the white community, then there has to be tension between the Jewish community and the black community because Jewish people are white. And so I really just had to wrestle with Noah on so many things. Jews in power. I said, Noah, I was drafted to the Cleveland Browns. The owner was a Jewish man. I was traded to the Philadelphia Eagles. The owner was a Jewish man. The general manager was a Jewish man. I left the NFL. My first agent was a Jewish woman. I left that agent. My next agent was a Jewish man. So how can you tell me that I'm anti-Semitic, not literally, but figuratively speaking, if I say Jewish people are in power when the titles, Joe, have been held of owner, agent, and general manager in my life. So we just went there.
Yeah,
So
and I said to him, I said,
up to Donnie, is that
wow. What I said to Emmanuel is the fact that there are a lot of Jewish people represented in various fields, that there's nothing anti-Semitic about that, and that is actually true. It's when you start talking about power and control, that's when you move to anti-Semitism, which is why, by the way, adopting the IRA definition is a brilliant move because it gives you the framework from which to understand what anti-Semitism is to begin with.
No, I'm going to ask you a tough question.
It's all about uncomfortable conversations here.
Answer. 1 in 4 Americans, according to the ADL, have anti-Semitic beliefs. Why now, and why throughout history, do people hate Jews?
That's a great question. So first of all, anti-Semitism is the oldest form of hate and discrimination that is still being practiced today. Okay, so it's never going away and never has gone away.
Anti-Semitism is not the oldest form of hate. That's a lie. That's a lie. And for that brother or brothers to sit up there and let her get away with saying that is stupid. It showed them as weak as hell. She would have been checked. The oldest form of hate is anti-Semitism. Nah, I don't beg to differ. You telling the goddamn lie.
Away. Why? To some extent, it's people hate the other. People simply hate the other, and the Jews have been this unique little group that is particular and universal at the same time, with its own tradition and culture. And throughout history, it's basically the Jews are history's favorite scapegoat.
Why?
I don't know why, but what happened is when anything goes wrong in society, the bubonic plague, it's the Jews, COVID, it's the Jews, financial meltdown, it's the Jews. Right now, Israel is a representative of white colonialism, the last bastion of colonialism on earth that needs to be taken down.
Nobody's saying that Jewish people are colonialism all over the world. They're talking about one area of the world, and they're war-ridden today. Nobody's talking about Jewish people all over the world. Stop it.
In law school, I remember we were going through different legal codes throughout history. And I remember reading the Magna Carta, which we always think, Magna Carta, that's the greatest thing. Oh my God, Magna Carta, it's the first time they started to tear power away from the monopoly. And you have all these rights. You have the right to do this and this and this, unless you're a Jew. You have the right to do this and this and this, unless you're a Jew.
Yep.
It is in the Magna Carta.
Yeah, it's been ingrained in the population, and it's been historically no blacks, no Jews, which is one of the other incredible reasons that we came together, because we need to recreate the relationship between the black community and the Jewish community. There's been a schism, and we just refuse to play along.
Donnie, if I may speak to that as well, I believe oftentimes you hate what you do not know. Right. You hate what you don't know. I think proximity, it breeds care. Distance breeds fear. One of my favorite quotes is, if we truly...
That is so cliche. You hate what you don't know. That is cliche. I don't know how many times I heard that bullshit.
We took the time to get to know one another. You would have no heroes nor villains. because you would actually get to know individuals. So we, I believe, just have to take more time to actually get to know these different individuals. Stop living in fear, because fear is it's a byproduct of misunderstanding.
Yeah.
It's a byproduct
Yeah.
of a lack of knowledge. And really, one, that's why we penned the book, but that's also why we just spend time talking.
And it's not a fun conversation at times. Like,
I
it's
bet.
very authentic. It's very
Yeah.
out there. It's like we're putting everything on the table.
Yeah.
That's so great.
Yeah.
And the new book is entitled Uncomfortable Conversations with a Jew. Emmanuel Acho and Noah Tishby, thank you so much for what you're doing.
Thank you so
And one of the
much.
things we
Thank
learned,
you.
Mika, we don't have to look up to Don.
I'm going to go on from there.
Rob, the counter protesters have since dissipated. Dozens of pro-Israeli demonstrators came right up to the Quad this afternoon, where pro-Palestinian students have been camped out all week. They said they wanted to stand up for Israel and combat what's been happening on college campuses across the country. Day 6 of the pro-Palestinian encampment at DePaul University, and tensions are running high as pro-Israeli demonstrators show up to counter protests.
Somebody has to stand up to this. This is unconscionable. It's intolerable.
Dozens of Chicago police officers lined the sidewalk.
As long as people are not using violence and derogatory language, they should be allowed to be out there and protest as many times as they want. But the mere fact that people have the audacity to question what's going on or say what's happening is wrong, a lot of this don't set right with people. And a self-entitled person don't want you saying shit about what they're doing.
Walk outside of the Quad, standing in between both sides to prevent further escalation. Officers tell me protesters were throwing things at one another and getting physical at one point.
The students are not instigating whatsoever. We are simply peaceful protesting, and you have on the other side fully adults, non-students, chanting Islamophobic statements at us while we're just simply protesting for divestment from our university.
We are here to show that the Jewish people in our nation are not going anywhere.
Meanwhile, on the other side of campus, Jewish students held their own rally away from the encampment. They say to not instigate any further.
On Tuesday, we had this counter protest and it was very heated. There was just a lot of hate. So what we're doing now is we're trying to spread
Now, this is a Jewish woman who is
love.
On campus, it's been wildly anti-Semitic.
She's
we can't
pro-Israel.
bring them home without being attacked verbally or honestly, like physically harassed as well.
They're saying that it was peaceful, but the media will have it that things escalated, there was violence and all that. See, the media like they do all the time. The media does when people are not fighting, or just like they did with the Tupac and Big thing. They escalated that shit. The media, they cause a lot of friction between and with people. Now, both sides should be out there. They should be able to be out there and protest. And as long as they're doing it peaceful and nobody's saying anything derogatory and no violence don't escalate, everybody should be allowed to be out there.
Now, despite the tense moments earlier, we did not see anyone get arrested here today. We did see one person get placed onto a stretcher, but safety officials did not have more information about that. Meanwhile, the university says the situation here at the Quad has stabilized.
Now, I'm going to end this stream with this. After I do a promo break, I'm going to do a promo break first, and then I'm going to end with this. It's going to shock some of you, and some of you probably already know.
Get your copy of Fire. It's definitely a must-read. If you enjoy hood books, this one is it. Just like the title of the book, it's officially Fire. Get it on Amazon, paperback or Kindle.
The once goal-driven, ambitious Sapphire turns to the street life after the sudden death of her big brother Dre. Dre's best friend Devontae tries to honor his homeboy's last request of looking out for his baby sister. A rebellious Sapphire makes it very difficult for Devontae to carry out his promise.
Now, this is an interview with Amy Goodman as shock and proof anti-Semitism used as a political weapon.
I'm working on a video about how extreme mainstream media is, including the tricks used when covering key domestic issues like healthcare. But this video is a response to the trick repeatedly used against this channel in channel comments. It's the standard tactic of calling someone anti-Semitic, and it's used to sabotage anyone who speaks out against the U.S. government policy of supporting immoral and illegal Israeli policies which violate basic human rights. And as you can see, this person suggests using a new word for the same old trick. Amy Goodman interviews a former Israeli minister, and she helps expose this trick used against dissidents, the defamation tactic of calling someone anti-Semitic.
Yours is a voice of criticism we don't often hear in the United States. Often when there is dissent expressed in the United States against policies of the Israeli government, people here are called anti-Semitic. What is your response to that as an Israeli Jew?
Well, it's a trick. We always use it. When from Europe somebody is criticizing Israel, then we bring up the Holocaust. When in this country people are criticizing Israel, then there are anti-Semitic. And the organization is strong and has a lot of money. And the ties between Israel and the American Jewish establishment are very strong, and they are strong in this country. As you know, they have power, which it's okay. They are talented people, and they have power, money, and media, and other things. And their attitude is Israel, my country, right or wrong, the identification. And they are not ready to hear criticism. And it's very easy to blame people who criticize certain acts of the Israeli government as anti-Semitics, and to bring up the Holocaust and the suffering of the Jewish people. And that justify everything we do to the Palestinians.
Pardon me, I got kicked out. And that person was the prime minister of Israel, former prime minister of Israel. And she exposed that they use the term anti-Semitic when people criticize Israel, or if they criticize the United States support of Israel's foreign policy. The weapon that they use is to refer to the people as anti-Semitic. That's what she was saying. She said if they're from somewhere else, they'll bring up the Holocaust. But if they're from the United States of America, they say the person is anti-Semitic. Now, I want to thank my family, my people for coming up. I appreciate it. I want to thank my brother, Voodoo Child. I played your song earlier, brother, Way Too Far. I don't know if you heard it or not, but I played it. That song resonates, brother. And thank you for making it. Peace to my brother, Voodoo Child. Peace to my brother, King Genocide. Thanks for tapping in. Peace to my brother, Key Norfolk. Thanks for tapping in. Peace to my sister, Sharon Walker. Thank you for tapping in. Peace to my good brother, Mr. West. Thank you for tapping in. Peace to my brother, Big Dog Philly OG. Thank you for tapping in. Thank you to my brother, Dangerous Music. Thank you for tapping in. Greetings. Thank you to my sister, Tierra Latrice. I appreciate it. Thanks to my brother, Marco Power, my sister, the true daughter of darkness, my brother, Bronze Flat Power God. Thank you all for tapping in. I'm going to end this stream or land this right here. I appreciate you all. Just know that I try to keep our people aware of what's going on, because what they're trying to do is pass more laws they see what's going on with us all the time, but they never get to passing the law. They will pass the law to protect those who aggress us. They will pass laws like that. We have Asian people shooting our children in the front yard and shooting our young brothers in gas stations, shooting them to death. And they get laws passed. They get bills passed into law to protect them from us when they're aggressing us violently. And those who, aggress us end up getting protection from us when we're the ones who need the protection. But I don't expect no benevolent person in Congress, any type of legislative office, to come to our rescue. It's going to be entirely up to us to protect ourselves from whatever come at us, But I'm just saying that for the sake of argument, that they are trying to write a law that we can't even merely criticize certain people. We can't say nothing about them. It's going to be considered anti whoever that people is. You can't even argue with an Asian. You get charged with a damn hate crime. With a hate crime. You can't argue or you can't criticize Jewish people. You get called anti-Semitic, or you get charged with a hate crime. Even if you're correct, you get charged with a hate crime. They're trying to pass that into law. While our people are on social media going back and forth arguing about a damn identity, they're passing laws that's going to weaponize people against us. When we need to be organizing, strategizing, and deputizing and coming up with solutions to bigger problems than what we're going to call our damn self. On that note, Peace, brothers and sisters. Thank you. This is the Enemy's Public. I am Brother Nasir. Please, if you haven't hit that like button, hit it. Bring the algorithm up. And I thank you. Peace.
Always trust everyone to be themselves, but trust in the fact that you can see them well. I mean, so it's like, you know, trust. It takes too much energy to not trust someone. I mean, it takes too much energy. You always got to stay 2 steps ahead of them or whatever. Right. But trust them to be them.
Right. To be themselves.
Trust a snake to bite you. Right. Trust a lion to laugh. Trust a thief to steal from you. Like, trust them to be them. Too. But know them when you see them.
Okay.